Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia, and I've got a wonderful show. I know I say stuff like that every week, but it's true. I think I bring you some really great guys. I'm really excited to talk to my guest tonight. Um, he's been doing this for 30 to 30 plus years in the indie scene here. I've known about his work and have read some of his work going back to the beginning. Um, He's got a Kickstarter up for one of his latest series. We're going to learn all about it, but he's a writer, he's a creator, he's a publisher. Let's bring on JD Calderon. Hey,
Hey,
how
how
you
you
doing?
doing?
I'm doing
I'm
good.
good. So am I. I mean, other than running a little late, like I said, the
Yeah,
MTA did not treat me well today. It was just kicking me in
it's
the teeth.
it's
You know.
fine. You can't always rely on them, can you?
No, but we try. I mean, I left early.
Yeah, I understand. I
you know,
understand.
it's normally a 35-minute commute. It's just
Mhm.
like today it was an hour and 10 minutes. I was like, "Grr," you know,
Wow, that's a big
yeah,
a big commute today.
yeah,
Wow,
yeah,
man. I don't know. I mean, I don't have to do that. I don't take the MTA, thankfully.
right, yeah, oh yeah.
I work locally, so my
Hmm.
car is all over the place here.
Gotcha.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna need a new car soon, which my goal is another 2 years, and then.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
But number one, thank you for coming on tonight.
Thank you for having me on, Michael.
I'm excited. I'm excited to talk to you. You've been on Get Into Him before, but we had a few other indie creators, and we talked about indie publishing, and
Hmm.
we had a great time chatting. But I've never really gotten to chat with you one on one about stuff. And as I mentioned in my intro, I've known about your work for a long time. I'm just going to give the story I know because we had Daphne on a few weeks ago, and Daphne
Hmm.
does all the art, for you
Yes.
here. So, um, you guys are a long time team, 30 years
Hmm.
working together. Um, I I discovered you guys. I hate using the word discovered because it sounds like I'm the one who
You
brought you into
found
full.
this.
But I
Right.
found your work at a local mall show. It was either I think it was my second comic book convention actually, and
Wow.
I was about 16,
Hmm.
and I was just starting to gather ideas on how to actually put comics together. And when I saw you guys at my local mall, I was excited to see indie creators, people who you weren't too far off from my age. You were
Hmm.
basically doing what I wanted to do. And I remember I'm pretty sure I bought everything from your table at the time. And I still have them packed away in boxes. And if my schedule wasn't as crazy as I'd go down and pull them out. But I remember picking up Tall Tales.
Hmm.
I remember picking up Revelations,
Yeah.
and I believe there was one other book you had at the time, which I can't think of the name right now.
Well, we had Dreamweavers,
Yes,
right?
that's it.
Which I showed it to you. I'll
Yeah.
show it to everybody else. It's this. I'm actually remastering this. We published this in '91,
Okay.
so it was a long time ago. It's in black and white, but the lettering in it is kind of horrendous. We were just starting out.
Hmm.
The guy who lettered it is actually the artist as well, Matthew.
Okay.
And considering the limitations in technology of the day, I think he did okay. But
Yeah.
I'm cleaning it up. I'm cleaning it up quite
Hmm.
a bit. I don't know if you ever got this. This came out a few years later. This is Dreamweavers an Extreme Homage, and it was a
Oh
parody
no, I
book
don't
we
think.
put out where we're goofing on the Image guys. This is
Okay.
you see Mark Silvestri and Jim Lee and all that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
eventually I'll get around to
To
remastering
that
this
one
for
too.
you.
No, that's great. I love that. I love that type of stuff. Love parody.
So yeah.
I think that's great. Um, so why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, what got you into comics? Who were some of your inspirations? And then we'll move into kind of when you started creating your own stuff.
Right. Okay. Comics came to me it was kind of weird. My brother just brought home a stack of books one day and he was just like, "Hey, you want these?" And I was like, "Sure." And I just started reading them. I fell in love with the medium. And he he kind of imprinted on me. He was like, "Thor. is your favorite character. And I was like, okay, Thor is my favorite character. And thusly then, Thor is my favorite character. So
Nice.
yeah, and it helps that Walter Simonson came along to really reinforce that. So that helped. And also Roy Thomas. Roy Thomas did a short run. It was from like 290 to 299, and then it culminated in 300 of Thor with I think it was Ralph Macchio and one other editor finished writing it. And there's this whole thing with the Celestials, and it was just incredible. You know, Thor picks up the giant sword and he throws it through Arishem's chest. You know, it was just awesome stuff.
I think I remember that. It's been a while, but I think it's funny. Thor was actually the very first comic I ever owned. It wasn't. I was too young to appreciate it. But I remember just loving like mythology, and I heard about Thor, and I remember being on vacation and in like a deli, and there was a Thor comic, and I picked it up, and I had my parents buy it for me. I had to be maybe 7 years old, and I went home and I drew on top of all the stuff, and I cut out all the Thor pictures, and I glued them down to like cardboard and on a stick, and I put on my own little Thor shows and stuff. But I didn't, and then when I was 13, I was like, oh no, I should never have cut up that book. And I was serious, and I became a serious collector at like 13. But it's
that's how it happens.
Yeah, but I love the character myself. So But anyway, you were saying.
Yeah. So I mean, you go on, you keep collecting and buying. Ran into John Byrne, loved this stuff. Probably around the age of 11 or 12, I came across a copy of Daredevil 168, which was the first appearance of Elektra by Frank Miller.
Okay.
And I remember that was the first book that I ever ran across that I said to myself, if this is the level of quality of work I would like to achieve if I ever did comics. You know, and I mean, I'm still trying to get there. It's there was a high watermark, Frank Miller, you're gonna try to get in there with that guy. It's not easy. It's not easy. But I'm trying though. I'm trying every day. So, and that's the thing. It's not a thing about trying to be better than anybody. It's a thing about trying to be better than yourself. I'm trying to be a better writer today than I was yesterday, and tomorrow we'll try to be a better writer than I am today. So that's the sort of thing that I always try to tell people and try to impress on people. It's like, look, if you try to be better than Alan Moore, you will drive yourself insane. Try to be better than Neil Gaiman. I'm not going to say you can't do it, but good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. That's all I can say. And always remember that it's not a thing because, how do you even compare, right? Like I can't, Frank Miller and Alan Moore, right? They're two of the top artists or writers out there, right?
Yeah.
And, could you really make a comparative between Watchmen and Sin City?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, between, Miracle Man and Daredevil, right? Yeah. Right? What I could say is that they're both great, just different.
Yeah.
Right? So you could be great and different. So there you go. So,
no, absolutely right.
And then moving along in my, moving along in my career, what I had done was around 15, 16 years old. I used to get the Comic Buyer's Guide, which was a newspaper.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome. So in there, I saw, and I've said this story dozens of times, I don't know, but in there was an article about these guys who had just been making it big on their comic book. These guys from Massachusetts. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles issue 2 had just come out. And I was like, and I looked at the picture and I was like, oh, those guys did that? And then mind you, I was like 15, 16 years old.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I can do better than that. Right? And those are literally my thoughts. I was like, I can do better than those guys. Right? And I'm like, hey, man, have I been chasing that one? I've been chasing that one forever.
Yeah.
So, and those guys are awesome. Doing fantastic work. They're still out there. They're doing Ronin, the last Ronin thing. It's just great stuff. But that's the thing, though. That's what motivated me to get in. And I started working with a couple of friends in junior high school, and one of my friends moved on to art and design. He started bringing me over. I went to a different high school. We were playing role-playing games, and I would come over and play whatever. And then right out of high school, I said, okay, what am I going to do with myself? It was, start a comic book company. What are this, I'm 17 years old. I'm just out of high school. I'm like, okay, this is what sane people do, right? They start comic book companies. Fortunately for me, I had friends at art and design, and one of my friends over there said, listen, I will bring you the best artists of my class. And this is how I met Matt Lunsford, Zakim Lenison, Daphne Leitch, and a number of others. I mentioned those three specifically because those three are the ones that did a bulk of the work. There was a bunch of other people. There was Poyi, Les Dennis, God rest his soul. There was Roberto, and just scads of other people. I mean, the thing is the interesting thing is that coming up through that, like Jamal Igle is a classmate of Daphne's. Buzz is also another classmate. Well, he was like an upperclassmate. He was, I think, a year ahead of myself. Like he was a year older than us. And then, who else did we meet? This guy named Chip Wallace. He inked for a long time at Marvel in DC. Okay. Just couldn't. Yeah, he had to leave. He couldn't do it anymore. He was just the stress on his body was just too much. Just sitting, I guess, for hours and hours on just inking. So it's interesting just coming across all these people who eventually moved on into the industry, like Wilson Ramos, who's done a bunch of stuff at Marvel and DC, colors, inks, lettering, all this other jazz. And, just coming this weird group. And then we just started doing comics, right? And the issue that we had was that we were young. We didn't know what we were doing, right? And we would release these books annually. So issue 1 came out in probably 2001 or 2002, and then issue 2 came out in the following year. And then issue 3 came out the following year after that. Not the best business model in the world. Not just don't do it that way. And then the other thing is, I was learning. I didn't have a mentor, right? I had a book by, I believe it's Saul Brodsky. It was a how to self-published comic books. Came out of Solson Publishing, I believe. Okay. And in that book, it had all the secrets. At 13, 14 distributors you can reach out to, the printers, how to work with them. It gave me something called 2 in 10. Here's something for everyone. I don't know if they still do it. I haven't worked with Diamond in years. But one of the complaints I constantly hear from a lot of indie publishers is they have a problem collecting their money from Diamond. It's just, they're like 30 days out, sometimes 45 days, whatever. And I was like, well, have you ever tried 2 in 10? And this is something I learned way back then is like, what is that? It was like basically what it is you're giving the distributor 2% of the invoice to keep if they pay you within the first 10 business days.
Oh,
okay. So if you got $1,000 bill that you're hounding out to them, 2% of that, so it's like $40 or something. So they're gonna keep $40, but they're gonna get it to you within those first 10 days. So you get paid, right? And that's important. So thank you, Saul. Right. And one of the other things that I learned was, things were different back then. Like I can get a line of credit from the printer, and then once he saw the orders from the distributors, you just print the books. He would send me whatever was left over. The rest of the stuff would go out to the distributors. I get my checks. They get paid. It was all. So it was interesting. It was not easy, but it was a lot of fun though. So, yeah.
Well, the early years of doing stuff is always the fun part. That the struggle. It's like when you hit that plateau, it's like you kind of miss the what is it? The drive you had, because you were working so hard to get to a certain point, and then you reach that point, and it's like, if I don't give myself a new point to reach, I'm just leveling out. I'm not growing as an artist. I'm not learning. I'm not trying. That pressure actually pushes you. I think that's great.
Yeah. So we did, what is it?
Just want to say hi to Christian Demon. Great to know. Christian, just by the way, Christian has been on the show with James Lines. They have Fugitive Poems. I don't know if you've seen them. Check their stuff out. They're actually going to be on next week.
Nice.
So they're coming back next week. But thanks for tuning in, Christian.
Yes, thank you, Christian. So from there, what did we do after that? Because then we shut down. That was Golden Realm Unlimited. Wonderful little company. But you know, its day was done. We did. I think Dreamweavers had 3 issues plus the one parody book. Tall Tales had 3 issues. Reaver had 2 issues. Security Agenda had 1 issue. There was Revelations and Revelations Saga. So those are all the books that came out from that tiny little company in the span of 3 or 4 years.
I feel, and I'd have to go into the boxes, and I'm very good with covers in my head. Like I could always pull stuff, and I just want to make sure it was you. Did you have? I think it was digest size. It was all yellow, like paper. It was like a yellow cover. I think it was maybe a
was it an ash can?
Yeah, ash can size, all yellow.
That's quite possible.
I think it was a Revelations piece, maybe. And I'm just again, everything's down below underneath my drawing. I don't even use my drawing table because I can't fit my feet underneath it anymore. It's just all comic boxes. But
nice.
But it's I got the stuff in there. I got the digest Tall Tales in there. I got the actual comics I bought from you all those years ago. I got the Revelations, but I know it's from your company, but it's like a yellow digest book. It might have been was it Dreamweaver?
It might have been Dreamweavers.
It might have been Dreamweavers. Yeah.
It might have been Dreamweavers. Yeah, like I said, we did a bunch of stuff. We did whatever we could to try to make a few bucks, and we did all right for ourselves. I mean, and that's the thing. Back then in the '90s, we would go to shows and people would be like, "Oh, just give me one of everything," you know. And that right there was like $100, $120. You know, I've had grandfathers walk in and say, "Well, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 grandkids. All right, give me 4 sets of everything." You know, it just didn't bat an eyelash. He was it just pay you cash. He was just like, all right, here's $400 or whatever. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, the '90s was a really nice era for indies.
Yeah,
I gotta say, was very nice. And indies are getting stronger again. But there was that whole, because Image came out, Image did their thing. Everybody was like, we're doing our own stuff, you know.
Yeah, so. And also there was a lot of us. But not as many as there are now.
Yeah.
You know, and I think what it is also then it was regional, you know, because I think there probably were just as many indies. It's just, you know, I wasn't going out to California or Arizona or Chicago, so I didn't get to see the 40 or 50 guys that are out there, right? So now through the internet, we get to see everybody grouped in the same spot, like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. So you're like, wow, so many. When there probably always were, you know, that many. It's just they were scattered and we had no way of just seeing each other till we went to shows. And that's really the only time we see each other. But a little bit further down the line, Matthew was picking up work. He worked at Antarctic Press for a little while. He did 3 issues of Ninja High School and wasn't having a good time. So he was looking for other work, and he got picked up by a company called Central Park Media, and they were offering him to do some adult work, right? So these were based on anime out of Japan, and then he would draw the comic book. And when he first told me, we were on vacation. We were in Disney World for the first time, and he was like, "Listen, they're asking me to do this stuff," and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna do porn? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Why would you do that?" 6 months later, he comes to me and says, "They're looking for a writer." And I was just like, throw my name in the hat.
You know, it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. I'm a freelance animator and illustrator and stuff. And I don't know, maybe 3 to 6 months ago, I was, doing like Indeed or something, looking through them for some like freelance work. And this one said animator. I just click on it. It says must be okay with adult themes, anime style, and then it said will be airing on Pornhub. And I'm like,
nice.
I don't know if I just in my head could animate some. So I never applied to the job, but I'm just like,
Right.
that.
Yeah. No, we did quite a few of these books. But from that came Tenchi Muyo, right? Well, that was a respectable thing that we did. We did 6 issues of Tenchi Muyo. We did 1 issue of Phantom Quest Core. We did 1 issue of Ixer 3. So yeah, I mean, we did that stuff, and in doing that work, it's what really enforced to me. You do not want to write professionally. That's what it was for me, because I don't like pitching. Right? It's one of those things. I don't like pitching.
Yeah.
I don't like, sitting down and having to come up with all these concepts and all these ideas, and then just for some editor to say, okay, this one works and this one doesn't work, and so on and so forth. And I'll be like, you know what? I'm good. I went out, I got a day job, and I just started doing that, and did a day job. We had Tall Tales for a while running in furlough, and I think it ran there for like 40 or 50 issues. At that point, it was the longest running strip in there. And furlough, for anybody who doesn't know, was done by Radio Comics by Ellen Winkler. She had gotten it from Antarctic Press when she left. It was part of her, or I guess her agreement. And it was just an anthology of furry comic strips, and ours was one of them for about 50 issues. And someone had written us, one of the fans, and they had said, reading Tall Tales in furlough 8 pages at a time is like watching Lord of the Rings 5 minutes at a time. So we were torturing the fans. They were like, they wanted more.
They wanted more.
Yeah, and then we eventually pulled it out. We started publishing on our own, and then we did that for a while. We started doing trades, and we were doing a lot of shows at the time. Then eventually, Kickstarter came up, and we started doing Kickstarter. And here I am, 24 campaigns later, on the Oswald Chronicles. And the Oswald Chronicles came about because during these professional jobs I was working on, I just had dead time, right? And I was making a living doing this stuff. And it wasn't like today, so I didn't really know how to get in touch with any other editors or stuff. So they were just like, so I was like, okay. So I started writing in prose. So the series started in prose, and I just started writing. And initially, the story wasn't supposed to be about Oswald. It was supposed to be, he was just supposed to be a scribe, and like all of these crazy beings would come into his life, and he would just write down their stories, and these are the stories that would be produced. But eventually he stepped up and he said, no, the story's about me. So the story became about him. So I was like, okay, the little guy took over.
And I gotta say, I've never had a chance to read the Oswald Chronicles, but it sounds like so much fun. I'm, and this is going to be one of my questions, because we're talking about Thor, we're talking about these comics you were reading and stuff. But your work tends to be fantasy, like high fantasy stuff. I love high fantasy. I love to draw it. For some reason, my stories tend to be more sci-fi, but I love just high fantasy stuff. Like, what made you decide high fantasy over superheroes or some other type of like genre?
Well, believe it or not, initially, it was mostly superheroes. Really? Okay, so yeah, it really was. Initially, like Dreamweavers is a superhero comic. Okay.
It's been a while since I read it, so you got to.
Oh no, I get no, that's okay. Because it's funny, like it's in this, you see a bunch of furry characters. What they really are is they're a bunch of trans-dimensional beings who get brought into Earth from these 4 kids. When they go to sleep, they bring in their role-playing game characters, right?
Oh, cool.
So these beings come to Earth, and there are other superheroes on the planet. So that's what it originally started out as. But as I started moving on, like Tall Tales was from my role-playing game days, playing Dungeons and Dragons, right? And then the Oswald, Chronicles, just the high fantasy aspect of it is just, I like the weird, I like the unusual, right? So and that's what Oswald is. I mean, like Oswald gets so crazy that like, okay, he has 3 stages of his life, right? He has his first life where he lives in the middle of Manhattan on a mall, right? And it's the real world, and there are fairies running around, just humans, people. We can't see the fairies. They don't interact with us. We don't interact with them. But there's all these crazy adventures going on, right? And Oswald is in the middle of that. And I was just like, I got fairies, I got trolls, I got orcs, I got all this mythology to pull from.
Yeah.
It's not enough. Okay, it was just not enough, right? I did not have I was not giving myself enough latitude to do the insanity that was in my brain. So I was just like, okay. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna move Oswald into Dream, and that's gonna be his second life. Okay.
Okay.
So in Dream, that's it. All rules, everything out the window. So it's so it just goes insane at that point. He becomes an emperor. He's in Dream for about 80 years, right? And
Yeah.
he's asleep on the mall for about 2 weeks, right? So he's pretty much in a coma for
Yeah.
2 weeks. And during that period, his friends try to break him away from when he was an emperor of the Mar, right? So these people, uh, there were forces working against him because they wanted to keep him in Dream because they wanted his physical body to die because then he would be trapped in Dream, right? So that was like one of the subplots, and his friends would attack. They would raise armies and they would attack this other race, not knowing the damage they were doing to him because he was the emperor, he was married, he had kids, he had grandkids, right? Some of these children died in some of these wars, right? So it was very traumatic for him, but he also becomes this great sorcerer. He becomes just a huge battle mage. He just, ends up doing all these crazy things. So it was one of these things where it's just like, it was like, all right. And then eventually when he gets out of Dream, he's convinced that it was just a dream. And it's not until much later that he finds out that no, it's not just Dream, because some of his children survived this horrendous act that happened where the entire empire was destroyed. And it again causes a conflict in him. He's just like, okay, so what's, so they're real, and my friends murdered or were the cause of the deaths of a number of my children.
Yeah.
Right. And these are people that he considers like these are his true friends. Like they themselves would die for him. Right. So he's just like this. So there's that emotional turmoil there. So yeah, that's the sort of thing I like to actually deal with.
Yeah.
Sure.
No, listen, it sounds great here. I was looking at, you know, at the artwork. When I look down on the screen, by the way, I have another monitor below me here
Gotcha.
that I'm looking at. So I'm not ignoring you. I just been flipping through your Kickstarter here.
No, that's fine.
And it's this is it's
Yeah.
gorgeous stuff. I got to say that.
Thank you.
The idea is fantastic. Let me share the screen. Let me share the Kickstarter with everyone right now so they can see what I'm looking at here.
Cool.
And
because what you're gonna be seeing, you're gonna see two artists.
yeah.
Now,
All right.
Daphne. All right. The artwork you see there, that's by Aurelio Tillis. That I had him do the wraparound cover.
Okay.
But if you scroll, you will see some other fantastic artwork. Yeah. Those are some of the things that I'm offering in the. I have a T-shirt, my pin,
and some Tall Tales and Ego Raven.
Yeah. If you want to pick up some like a sample.
Yeah. Which I donated to. I finally filled out my survey today on the Kickstarter. I never got the email. It's funny. I never got the email about the survey for that. And then today I get an email that's saying you've never filled out your survey.
Right.
So I finally filled out. Yeah.
The artwork here though is done by Jade Gonzalez. She's fantastic. I met her online probably about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I don't even remember how long it's been, but incredible artist. She's out of Chile, and we've been working with each other. We've probably done about 1,200 pages worth of work together, maybe more.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've been together, working diligently on this thing.
I love this though. The stuff, looking at this, not style wise, but kind of like the way the mouse is drawn. It always reminds me of kind of like The Secret of Nim, know. It's got that kind of feel to it.
Yeah. yeah. Like I said, Jade's awesome.
Wow.
You know,
This
and
is
then like
gorgeous stuff. I love
this
this
is
angle here too. Just
yeah.
beautiful.
hmm Jade's an incredible storyteller. I
Yeah.
mean, I give her all the credit in the world. I it's gotten to a point where I hand her a script and she she doesn't send me layouts. She just sends me the pages. She's like, yeah, this is done. This is done. Yeah,
Wow.
it's like, and it's very. I can count on my two hands
Hmm.
how many times I've had to ask her to go back and fix something
Hmm.
out of 1,200 pages.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
You know, yeah, it just doesn't happen very often.
Now, is there something, because like I said, I know you did Tall Tales, you had
Mhm.
the Dreamweavers there. Is there something with you, like just enjoying writing for animal characters, or do you have a preference? Your characters seem to always kind of be animal based.
Right. It was always I use them as ciphers, right? So that
Mhm.
you can. The way I look at it is like this. We hear a lot about representation these days, right? You
Mhm.
can, my group is not represented in this or that and the other thing, or this person is in this race or religion or whatever.
Yeah.
Anybody could be Oswald.
Mhm.
Anybody could put themselves in the spot of that mouse. I could be Oswald, and it doesn't matter, whatever. The same thing goes for Ravenwood or Clear from Tall Tales, and
Mhm.
Dreamweavers is the same thing. It's about these four kids, getting together as a group, and these are their role playing game characters. They come out,
Yeah.
and this is what you want to be, and that's how I look at it. That's how I've always felt about it. It's about
Yeah.
just being able to live through these characters. You don't have to be doesn't have to be anything specific, you know, but you can go on these crazy adventures with them.
Yeah, I think that's great. This is gorgeous art. I love looking at this here.
Thank you.
Who did the cover for this one?
That was I forgot his name already. I was just looking at his stuff too. This is hold on, I will find it. um but the colors were done by Carlos Moreno,
Okay.
and then I had, because my memory is terrible. Oh, Danny Cruz.
Annie Cruz. Okay.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
to know. That's a name I got to look out for. Like when I see all these things, it's one of the things I love about doing this show and talking to people with Kickstarters. I'm seeing artists that I've never known of most of the time. I know even if I
Hmm.
bring people I know on, they're working with people I've never heard of,
Right.
and because they're all indie people, and some may live a half hour from me, some may be in another country. It doesn't matter. But
Hmm.
I'm seeing
Right.
all this great stuff, and I'm getting to learn about all these other people I need to be following and looking out for. Because
Yeah, and like Danny, if you look at his artwork, right, in general, it was just he does like serious fantasy stuff. Like he does like
yeah,
these big like muscle bound barbarians and stuff. And I was like,
uh,
hey, you want to draw my mouse? And it was just
that's
I
great.
commissioned I commissioned him, and he was just like, yeah, okay, cool. He drew this, and I was like, oh, all right, fantastic. It's definitely a different take. I love it.
That's
And I
awesome.
had Carlos Moreno
Mhm.
color it, and it was just I mean, you can see the results. And this is going on a chapbook. This is a Return to Dream. This is where Oswald's retelling some of his tales while some of his stories that when he was in Dream, like some of the things he went through.
Mhm.
So
Nice. And that's the T-shirt there,
that's the T-shirt. That's by Jade Gonzalez, and that's the pin right
and
underneath
that's
it.
Jay's pin there.
Yep.
Nice. I really do. I just love the styles that you got from all these people here working on this here.
Oh yeah. If you
It's
give me a second, I'll pull up something and I'll show you something.
let me stop sharing for a moment then.
Hold on. Because the thing is, the question I get is like, where do you find your artists, or how long does, because it takes me forever to vet somebody.
Hmm.
Like I'll commission a pinup, and then I'll be like, okay, if I like the way they draw Oswald, I'll be like, okay, what can you do as far as sequentials, and then maybe I'll have them do a 4-page or 8-page short story,
Hmm.
right? Hold on, let me see if I can share this with you. No, that's not it. All right, we'll have to do it like this, and then I'm gonna have to just do. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Can you see that?
Yep, I'm gonna add it right now.
There you go.
Wow.
So this is Arenio Tillis, and this is a story called "If I Was a Few Inches Taller."
I'm just gonna go in full screen for a second.
Okay. So it's like it's about Oswald and one of his neighbors. He's a troll, and he's having troubles with the ogre, and these two have been having a fight for the last few years, and you know, and yeah, you could just see like the expressions just crack me up. You know, I'm just like, this guy's killing me. You know, so it's yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. He kind of has a bit of a like a manga feel to his work.
Oh yeah. He's out of Indonesia.
Okay.
So yeah, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it takes a long time for me to vet, an artist. But yeah, I mean, when I get them, it's funny. This particular story was only supposed to be 32 pages.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna wind up probably around 63, and I was just like, I was like, okay, and it's one of those things where I like to let the artists, I give them the scripts, and the thing is, I don't break down a script page by page. The only time I ever did that is when I was working professionally, and I knew I had to hit 24 pages, right? Yeah. So that's the only time I did that. But now I just write them, and they're just one giant scene. So I let the artist break it down, right? And I gave it to him, and he was just like, and when he initially read it, he was like, "Yeah, it's gonna be like 32 pages." Okay, and then he comes back to me. Oh, I laid it out. It's gonna be like 64.
First, I want to say hi to George Medina in the comments there. Hi, George. Thanks for tuning in. Second, though, I gotta say, as a publisher, because I self-publish too.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start hitting a different page range, prices go up. If you give an artist something and say, hey, give me a 32-page book, and then come back and it's 36.
Mm-hmm.
How did as a publisher, how do you feel about something like that? Are you okay with it, or are you like, well, that was a bit much larger book than I wanted?
Right. Well, at that point, you have to put on your business cap and say, how do I strategize this out? Well, I don't have one comic, I have two. Yes. Right? I have an issue 1 and I have an issue 2. That's it. That's how I do it. I'm like, and then we'll have a trade. And then there we go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great.
I was like, but yeah, I like, just look at that. It's just,
I love it. Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
I love the bow tie on him. The way the way it even just sits on him.
Yeah. And what's funny, the other funny thing about it is, like, Oswald really shouldn't be this tiny in comparison to Diane. He's probably should be up to her waist. Uh-huh. But I love the way he just draws him like this. Like, it's just, he's just like, oh, I'm just a tiny little mouse. And it just cracks me up. Because he eventually becomes this monster of a wizard, Mm-hmm. It's just, but this is him. This is really his early stages of him.
Yeah. He's that is great. Can you scroll back down? I just, that final panel with the way he's like kind of walking away, and he's got the paw in the bottom there. I think that's gorgeous.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, Aurelio, he's doing some really good work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. But speaking, you mentioned trades, so I'm going to remove this for a moment, and I want to go back to your Kickstarter. So your
Yes.
Kickstarter is for a trade.
Yes, it's for the first 4 issues of okay, technically there's 2 story because there's My First Day. Now, My First Day is Oswald's basic origin story, right? So that's the first issue, and it's a one shot. It's 24 pages, and that's what it is. But it flows right into Passing Queens and Making Homes, right?
Okay.
And that's where we see it's literally issue 1 and then issue 2, or it's like issue 1 and then issue 1, and it's the first 3 issues of that story arc, which is a total of 8 issues. So this is basically the first half, and it flows right into it. It's him. That's where you see him walking through Manhattan. He's alone. He's just like, you know. Yeah,
that down here
yeah.
was. I think.
Well, this is My First Day. These first few pages are from My First Day. That's where he's learning how to read. He's learning how to speak. He's enjoying television. You know, I'm pretty sure if given his druthers, Oswald would have become just a couch potato and just watch TV for the rest of his days. Yeah. He learned how to play the piano. So yeah, so this is all in My First Day, and if you keep scrolling, there you go.
Right here.
This is where that's like the first. That is the first page of Passing Queens and Making Homes. So that's where he goes out in the world and he tries to find himself. It's a lot of insanity ensues. You know,
I as an artist, there are certain things I do well. I've always done characters well. I think that's more my animation background, capturing movement and stuff. But man, I'm looking at these backgrounds, and I would hate to draw. Bridges are one of the things I hate drawing, and it's all because of these lines and the beams that support it. But this is just gorgeous. I love this. I love this little like tin can tent he made here and his home. It's very Tom and Jerry like feel. But looking out, I mean, it's just this scene alone. One of my favorite panels that I saw looking at this. I mean, I love the angle that the artist got here, but this just is such like a telling kind of moving scene. It could be so much could be just happening text wise or without text, and you can kind of get that story, right there. To me, this is one of like the most perfect panels I've seen.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, Jade is incredible.
Yeah, so. I love it. Here, and this is nice too. I like the show the height relation. But
this is him hiding from some fae, some fairies and stuff, and like I said, it's the hidden world that lives within our world.
So humans can't see magic, but animals can, or is Oswald just kind of special?
No, Oswald's special. He straddles the 2 worlds. He straddles I guess the reality and the unreality. So he straddles these 2 worlds, and that's what makes him special. God, I hate the term chosen one, but eventually that's what he becomes. I just hate that term. And I've had a couple of people call him a Gary Stu, right? And I was like, he's not a Gary Stu, as like because the thing is he's learned to do what he does. Eventually, you'll see that he learns everything he achieves. He learns how to use magic, and that's with that thing where he's in Dream for 80 years. He spends a huge portion of that time studying and developing his craft as a sorcerer.
Yeah. Another panel I got to talk about though. I just love how she drew the weight of her trying to carry these cherries.
Yeah.
Just great. This is just it's gorgeous. I mean, that's the most I can say about it. I don't know what else. Like art wise, this is beautiful to look at. Is this going to be in black and white or is this colored?
Well, I do have a sort of, being an independent creator, I do have, and this is unusual, I do have some kind of form of business plan, right? It's not something we normally as independent creators normally have, but the idea that I have is that currently it's in black and white, right? I did the comics already. They were limited edition. Many of the books, I still have a few. I don't have many sets left, but they were limited to 250. If you got the alternative covers, right? Those are 500, right? And once they were signed, numbered, right, and then put out. Now those are done. I will not be re-releasing those in that same format ever again. Okay.
Okay.
So you may be seeing them as trades, and then the next step after I do the two trades will be to hopefully get it into color. That's
Okay.
the next phase, and then I'll be releasing those as comic books in color, and then eventually I'll be releasing those comic books as trades in color, and then that's just through Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and then eventually, hopefully, I'll be releasing them through the wider market in
Yeah.
color. But that's a couple years down the road.
Listen, you do what you can and when you can. But I'll tell you right now, the grayscale that they got on here, I love it. I've said this before on the show. I'm colorblind. I go by the term shade blind mostly. I see colors, but when they start blending together, I have trouble telling them apart. And it's not just like I'm colorblind, like red and green or whatever it would be. This is all colors to me. So like I see like the pure colors. I could see like a pure red, pure yellow, all this stuff.
Right.
But when colors start blending, and that's when I have trouble. So I actually love looking at black and white and grayscale stuff. As long as it's got great contrast, that I'm just not looking at, an outline like a coloring book page.
Right.
I'm very happy with black and white. Color's nice too; it pops. But sometimes, and I hate to say it this way, but people don't think of the colorblind. And sometimes I look at colored comics, and I have issues seeing what's it gets a little muddy for me, whether it's in design of the character's costume or it's just something on the page and the colors might be a little too muted or something, and it's just. It's a problem for me. So I actually tend to lean towards grayscale comics. One of the reasons I enjoy reading manga is because they're all black and white. It's great stuff. So for me, this is gorgeous. I'm all for this, and in my head, I can put the colors in. Where I feel like I could see spot colors going on, like this explosion fire thing you got going on here, a little spot yellow in a few places here or something, or an orange, boom, pops out this. But then that gets expensive when you're just, spotting. But I mean, like I see that in my head, I see the magic of the fairies right here, even though some look like they should be flames, but that's what I love it. And I got to say, this cover page, where was it? This right up here. When I looked at this really was Dungeons and Dragons to me. You did not need to say that you were a D&D guy. I saw this and I thought, D&D right away. I see this guy and I know it's not 100%, but it reminded me of how they drew Ganon in the old Legend of Zelda cartoon back when they had the Super Mario Brothers Super Show in the 80s. I don't know if you remember that cartoon, but like that kind of reminds me a little bit of how Ganon was. And I was like, it was just like, to me, I'm like, I wonder if that was whoever drew it kind of had that little.
Oh, I'm sure. This was Arenio, the guy I was showing before. That's his work. Yeah.
It's gorgeous. Let's talk about your rewards that you got going on here for people who pledge. Now this is fantastic here. Just giving a sample taste for $1. You're giving them a PDF of the first day comic, the one shot of the Oswald Chronicle. It Came Seeking Me. So for $1, you're getting two stories. And then this here, when you say the PDF of the Oswald Chronicles Volume 1, this is for $8. It's a trade. You have the digital copy of the trade. And then if you go up to 10, it's the same thing, but then you get the all the digital. Well, actually, no, this is the chapter book, right? So this is the prose story, but then you get the PDFs of everything previously. I mean, I think that's fantastic. And you don't give a physical copy of a book until they hit $30, correct?
Right. Well, the chapbook is actually a physical book.
Okay. Up here.
I did it like that because I knew I have fans that collected the comic books, right? So they may not want to get the trade, but they may want that chapbook.
Yeah.
So they may want that. So that's why I did that like that.
Yeah. This honestly, if you're a digital person, this was like I was like, this is gorgeous. This one right here. I mean, this is like everything
Oh yeah.
PDF, and
Mhm.
it's for the price digital comics cost. The amount you're giving, this is just an awesome deal.
Yeah.
You'll
get 600 pages worth of comics. You'll get maybe another 700 pages worth of prose on top of that. So because it's a mixed bag. Some of it's prose, some of it is comic, but there's a lot of it there though.
Yeah, so, it's a lot to read.
Yeah, it's a lot to read. Yeah.
And then when you go, you got $50. You go for books and a T-shirt. It says here. And then you pay a little extra if you're a chubby guy like me who needs the 2XL, which is understandable. I always pay a little extra for my shirts.
Yeah, that's it's funny. I ordered because I wear double XL myself.
Yeah.
And I ordered, I think, like 150% more of what I ordered everything else, because I was just like, I want a bunch of them for me.
Yeah, I would do the same thing. Every time I buy a shirt, I have to go 2XL or 3XL depending on what it says. If it's like pre-shrunk or whatever, I always have to do that. But yeah, no, I would listen. If I was putting a shirt out of my product, I would totally want extra for myself. This is great though. And then 3XL, but you're getting all this stuff. So it excuse me. What I love about what you're doing is basically everything you offer all the previous books in PDF.
Yeah.
So even, so if you're getting the actual book, which I love to have a physical book in my hand, but I put PDF comics on my phone constantly. So like if I'm on my lunch break or something and I want to read a comic, I could just pull it off of here. I don't have to travel with it. I think that is a fantastic idea. The $60 for the books level 2. So now you're getting, are these aren't all the books, right? So you get the volume 1, you get the chapter book, the prose, that's the prose. Under the Knuckle and Other Stories prose book. Is that Oswald or is that a different?
No, that's all Oswald.
This is all Oswald.
That's all Oswald.
So the Wanderer's Fee and Other Stories, the Water's Fee, sorry. And the First Day and other. Okay, so I mean, like you're getting a lot of great stuff here. Let me ask you this: how long have you been working on Oswald? I don't think I've asked you that.
Since about 95.
And you first started publishing him when?
Probably about 96, 97.
So he's been around for a long time.
Right. Now that's prose though. That's prose. Yes. I started doing, I think, as a comic book probably 2008, maybe 2010.
Yeah,
maybe
go ahead.
Well, because Matthew had done a one shot for me, and that's the one shot that you see there. And I think maybe that one was done in 2007.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, I mean, because I've known about the character. I've seen, we're connected on social media. I've seen you at shows. I've seen the products. I've seen the images. But again, Oswald is not something I've had a chance to read, and I'm dying to read it. I'm going to tell you right now, there will be a level I donate to because I need to read. This. And you got what, another week left on the? Yeah,
we got another 7 days. Okay. We're just out there just trying to drum up as much. My big thing with Oswald, because all this material, just for anybody to know, is available on my website. Okay, you can read this entire thing for free if you want. Okay, I mean, I'm like, because I want to share it out with as many people as possible. It's nice if you get the book. I appreciate you. Right, and it's nice if you get a PDF level, because here's the big difference. You'll see the website is just strips.
Yeah.
So you'll be seeing them in strips. In the PDF, you get the actual comic pages, the way it's supposed to be seen.
What is the website address?
TheOswaldChronicles.com.
So www.theoswald.
Yep. It's www.theoswaldchronicles.com.
I'm just making sure I'm spelling it right. I'm putting it in the comments, and I just put in the link to the Kickstarter so people can
Cool.
go donate to that.
Mhm.
Sorry, terrible speller here. That's why I draw, right? Okay, so I put the Oswald Chronicles in the comments here, and let's
Mhm.
move over to
Yeah.
the website just so we can take a quick look.
Yeah.
Oh, so
And
we're
and
seeing it as this is what you meant as a strip, which is fine.
right.
I love comic strips, but I can see how people when they were talking about Tall Tales, if you were putting it out like this way,
Right.
would be
Yeah. It's
would
brutal.
be
It takes forever, but it's there. You know, if
yeah
you enjoy it, you can always just get it there. I mean, like I said, I want people to enjoy it.
yeah.
You know, and
Now
that's my thing.
and that's a great thing to do. I mean, listen, as a creator myself, as someone who makes comics, animations, whatever,
Mhm.
you know, I'm there, even though I do it because I have that drive to, I want to make these things. It's
Mhm.
really about sharing it with people and entertaining people and making sure that they're having a good time. And in my head, is having them escape
Mhm.
from whatever their daily worries are, their daily stress. I don't know how you know. I know I've talked about it on the show about my medical issues and stuff, but and I'm not going to really bring it up. But you know, I spent time in the hospital as a child, and
Mhm.
comics were what I had. People gave me comics. People gave me drawing pads. You know, I had TV. I had a lot of escapism.
Right.
So nowadays, when kids are in the hospital, it's much different than when I was a kid. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I've actually gone and visited kids in the hospital and drawn with them, and I've done things like that. But I remember being that little kid, kind of being scared. When I do my work is all kid friendly, only because I draw for that kid in the hospital.
Right.
You know,
Mhm.
I want to give them an escape.
Right.
So to even if it's 2 panels in a strip like this, or it's 8 pages in a book, or 100 pages, whatever it is, I think that's, to me, the job of the creator, to provide escapism. You
Mhm.
know, and I think we create the escapism that we want to have, you know, for ourselves. But hopefully,
Yeah.
we find an audience. So, I mean, you're doing something that's fantastic here.
Yeah. And
Um, yeah, go ahead.
and I just want to tell everyone is that look, I don't make any money on this. Nothing. Nothing. Not us. All right. Whatever you put in,
Mm-hmm.
whatever profits I generate from it, and I try to generate. I generated. You know, I try to keep my core costs pretty tight,
Mm-hmm.
and then whatever's left over, that goes right to the artist to make more material.
Yeah,
So
that's great.
so whatever you're giving in, you're going to be feeding a starving artist somewhere in the world. You
That's
know.
fantastic.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, as someone who runs a business themselves, you got to pay yourself, guy. You got to find a way to make a little cash off of it,
Oh,
right?
that's why I have the day job. This is
Yeah.
listen. See, you know, it's funny. Like some people get mad at me, right? Because I call it my very expensive hobby, right? But understand though, I am a very high level hobbyist. Okay, I am on. Look, I can I feel I can hang with some pros. Okay, that's how high level I am. You know, I'm up there. So,
Yeah.
or at least I'm trying to. That's where I'm trying to be. I was like, you know, it's like I said earlier. It's like it's not a thing about competing with them or being better than them. It's a thing about being. I can put my work next to somebody else's who's is whoever within the business and be like, look, you can read their stuff and then read my stuff and like look at my stuff and read my stuff and say, wow, that wasn't terrible, that was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
You understand, in comparison,
Yeah. Yeah.
that this was fun, this was just as good as anything else, within the industry.
Yeah.
And that's always what I is just trying to do the best I can. That's pretty much it. You know.
But I think that's the way you got to do it. You know, always
Mhm.
I always look at it. Everything I do, I try to make better than my last project.
Right.
You know,
Hmm.
um, and you'll see, and you know, I know you're a writer, so I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes you're as an artist and you're working on a page, and whether it's not the most important page or fun page to draw, or you're just tired of drawing 100 pages, you can
Right.
kind of see where the effort kind of dwindles on one or two pages, and it's like, oh, I got better again a few, and I hate doing that, because then I'll go back later on and redraw the 2 pages and hold myself up, because I'm like,
Right.
no, I got to equal it to the level I was doing throughout the rest of the book. I don't want to cheat the audience,
Yeah. No, I definitely feel that, man. I mean, it's one of those things. I told, like, it's funny, like with Oswald, I'm lucky. I'm still working with Jade, and I'm working with this gentleman, Aurelio. If I had to, like, if I didn't have them, right, and I couldn't find another artist, the series would continue. It would just be as prose.
Yeah.
That's my thing, is like, if I don't have the right artist on it, I just wouldn't do it as a comic book anymore.
It's
I would
funny you
just write
say
as
that,
prose.
because years ago, and this is going back like since late high school, but I really started it in college. I created this story about like monsters, right? And I took a screenwriting class in college, and I took that idea from high school and I wrote a script. And the teacher loved it. And she kind of persuaded me to start pursuing it. That I spent literally almost a decade of my life studying different mythologies, the occult, all this stuff, to really, I don't want to say make it real, because
Right.
whether you believe in the stuff or not or whatever, it's just, but to make it believable, that if someone studied Norse mythology and you read that part, it's believable to the people who understand Norse mythology, as you go to Japanese mythology. So it's like, I really spent all this time writing it. And then I laid out about 150 pages of a comic. It was just, I usually tend to work on a yellow pad, line, college ruled pad. I kind of just sketch out. So I laid out about 150 pages, right?
Right.
As soon as I was done, I'm like, I don't want to draw this. I don't want to draw this. I don't want to be the guy. I have the style in my head, but I don't want to be the guy who draws. This is too much. And it's not even the page count. It's what I did that I'm like, this is not my level of art. Or like my style does not fit what I wrote. And I've put it away for years. I don't know how many years it's been away, that I started writing it as prose, like last year. And then other stuff happened. I started picking it up again this month. I'm like at 6,000 words right now. And I'm just trying to write it as prose, because I have no interest in writing it as a comic or doing it as a comic. And I'm not sure, if I was to do it as a comic, who I'd want to hire.
Right.
And, it's going to be a long time that I find someone, because I have the images in the head that I designed. And I'm like, am I willing to part with that style or that design right now? But yeah, no, it's a whole thing of magic. It was planned to be like a 5-book series, like of trades. Like, or I don't want to say trade. They were actually supposed to be graphic novels, like, young adult, older kid type of thing. And now I'm just writing it as prose. And, I'm not the best prose writer, so it's taken me some time. But my goal is to have it done before. I was trying to take, the whole, this is National Writers Month, November. I was trying to, so I was thinking, I was trying to do that, but I think I'll have it done by the end of December. I don't think I'm going to have the schedule. Plus, I got 5 days in Disney this month, so coming up.
Enjoy it. You're World or Land?
World.
Okay,
but I'm really only doing 2 days. I don't know if you know about D23.
Yeah, I know of it.
Yeah, it's the official Disney fan club. I'm a member, and this actually not this coming weekend, next weekend, there's a Disney, it's called Destination D23.
Okay.
And it's basically like a little Disney World convention happening at the Contemporary, and they, they'll bring people on. Like I read, they're going to have certain guests from the company coming and talking about things, presenting stuff, showing you what's new. There's special things you can purchase. It's the whole thing. It's a Disney. It's a whole Disney. But like, I'm excited. It's like I'm going to a little Disney con, and I'm kind of excited about that. So
Yeah, Daphne and I we were there just a couple months ago, and it was
Mhm.
just it was fantastic. I
Yeah.
mean, we always have a good time there, but mm, it'll probably be a couple years before we go back. So
I try to get a trip every 2 years if I can. Like if I can do it every year, I do it, but it's more of a
yeah, no,
every
we
two.
were we were yeah, we've had a good run. There were some years we would go 2 times a year. There were some years
That's nice.
we would go 2 times a year, and then once out to California. So we would do
Yeah.
Disneyland. We would do two times
I
before.
still want to do that. I
So
haven't done Disneyland yet. I've
oh, you
done
didn't do it.
Disney World. I honestly, I think Disney World's my first trip was in 83. Then I
Mm,
went in 86, 92, 97. And then it didn't happen again and really until I met my wife. So we went in
mm,
2005, 2006, 2008. Like we were going, I think I'm on my 15th trip to,
yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
13th, maybe 17th. I don't know. So it's an odd number, but
Hmm.
I've been there so much now. Like I can walk parks with my eyes closed and I'm fine. I
Yeah.
know what I like to do,
Hmm.
and I go down like food and wine festivals going on. So going to
Yeah.
Epcot for walking
Hmm.
around for dinner, $5-6 a little taste at different places.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
Hmm.
blast. That's what I like to do. So,
Yeah. Yeah. We're always at the French Pavilion at the little ice cream shop.
oh, that's good stuff there.
Oh yeah. That's
I
woof.
like the what is it there? It's in the French Pavilion. It's like a little bakery. They have this
Hmm.
great like um it's a ham and cheese like
Baguette.
yeah, on the baguette there. Oh my god.
Hmm.
That is
Yeah.
just like a great little snack during I don't want to call it a snack. It's a sandwich, it's a good
Yeah.
lunch or something. But you can go there
Hmm.
early for breakfast. Like we stayed at the boardwalk sometimes and
Yeah.
taken the boat over. You just walk over
Hmm.
there and you get that as your breakfast. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. We did that a couple years ago. We were at the boardwalk. We just walked right into
Yeah, yeah.
Epcot. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I've walked back a couple of times. I've never walked into Epcot, but
Yeah.
we usually take the boat in the morning just being tired.
Hmm. No, yeah, no, it was great. It's funny. One year we got stopped by the Disney people. They were like wanted to do the survey thing,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So Daphne was like, so they asked her. They said, "How many times have you been to Disney World?" She was like, she's like 50, 45. Like, and I was like, no. I was like, she was like, think about it. How many years have we gone twice? And there were runs where we would go every year,
Yeah.
twice a year, and it was just like I was like, okay, I guess. And she's been doing it since she was like, I think 10.
Yeah.
Her parents would go down there, I think, annually.
Oh,
So
that's
with
nice.
them.
That's nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's fun. I think the thing that people don't understand is I've spoken to some of my adult friends. They're like, how can you go to Disney World? And it's like, what's the big deal? And I was like, dude, do you know what Disney World is? It's all art.
Yeah.
The whole thing was created by artists.
Yeah.
You know, Granted, they're selling you stuff all the time, and you're paying to be in the most expensive mall ever. You understand? But it's all art.
Yeah.
And there is, and there's that fantasy that's to it that that you just there's just nowhere else.
Yeah.
Although when I went to Paris, I
Mhm.
kind of had that same feel. Paris, beautiful city,
Yeah.
beautiful city. If you ever
I
get a
never traveled out
chance,
of the U.S., but
okay,
we'll
if you
see.
ever get the chance, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're probably not going to go back to Disney for another couple of years, but
Mhm.
we're looking to go to we're either going to go to Japan or Paris or both
Mhm.
within the
Okay.
next 2 years.
That's
So
great.
yeah, but we're going to go visit in Japan. We want to go to visit Disney Sea,
Mhm.
which they say is the most beautiful park out of all the parks.
I could imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's half owned by the Japanese and half owned by Disney.
Mhm.
And I think with them, like they're like their budget, they're like whatever it is, it's okay.
Yeah.
Like they don't skimp. Like they don't have a Bob Chapek over there like be like no, cut the costs on that thing. They're like no,
Yeah. Yeah.
those guys out there, they're like no, spend the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that, and we'll go back to Paris and we'll do Disneyland
That's cool.
out there as well. So I mean, it's
I'd
one of
like
those
to
things.
see them, but I have just I my thing is with my medical issues, I get a little nervous traveling outside of the U.S. So,
Gotcha.
but
Mm-hmm.
I would love to. I'd love to go see it. You know, when we finally decide to go out to Disneyland in California, we're gonna wait when they do that. Like I'm doing this thing next week, the Destination D23. Every other year they have it in Anaheim. It's like that big, the big convention type of thing they have, and which is everything. I think this year it's being held in Japan. It's not in Anaheim. I know that. Or maybe this year it's in Anaheim, but because we're doing, I don't remember, but I'm not going to be able to go this year. So my first trip to the Anaheim out there to Disneyland is going to be for that convention specifically. And then I'll make sure, but I'll make sure to see the parks. I hear it's obviously smaller. You don't need as much time, but if you can spend 2 full days, I hear you can see everything in the park and just really sit down and enjoy it. And I mean, I being the Disney geek I am, I mean, it's
you'll be amazed as to how tiny the castle is. In California, it is tiny.
I've seen the photos. I've seen a lot of photos. I've seen video. I've talked with people who've been out there, and they tell you, it's such a like. I don't remember the exact size, but I heard something like you could take all of the Disneyland and fit it like in Fantasyland and Disney World or something. I think they put it like a measurement in Disney World, and I think it takes up all of Fantasyland, or it's like Fantasy and Tomorrowland. Like it's not huge,
Yeah. The one nice thing though is in Disneyland is you can go into the castle and there's actually like a little. I don't know, like a little museum thing that you go through, and it's actually quite nice.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I'm dying. One day I'll do it.
Yeah,
you'll do it. The Disney geek in me will make sure to get out there. You got to see the original.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. I was out there 3 months before COVID hit.
Okay.
In 2019, it was like October. I went out there, and the one thing that was really cool is they did an overlay of what is that? A Nightmare Before Christmas on the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, I heard about that.
That was really nice.
Was it?
That was really nice. Yeah, because they don't do it. They don't do it in Disney World. They only do it on Disneyland, and that was really nice.
Yeah, no, I know that.
Yeah, Daphne wasn't with me. I went with a couple of friends. We were doing a guy trip, and they were like, "Wow, this is really cool." I took video and I sent it to Daphne. So 1 year we're gonna have to go. I'm gonna have to go back out there with her just to do October, just so she can see it. It was incredible. It's really nice.
My last trip to Disney World was actually the week before the world shut down. So we were there right as everything was just beginning, like to make people nervous and stuff. But and I'm glad I went. It was it was first time I got to see the Star Wars area. I saw the Millennium Falcon. I've told the story on the air. I literally sat there for like 15 minutes just staring at it with my mouth open. I like teared up a little bit, and just that but I don't want to insult any Star Wars fan, but I wasn't really impressed outside of the ship. I love the detail they did, but I did the Smuggler's Run, which was fun. And I did Rise of the Resistance, and I'm like, you know what? It was a really cool experience. But I'm not a fan of the new Star Wars stuff. And the Rise of the Resistance, basically all new stuff. So I didn't enjoy myself as much as, someone who likes the new stuff would. I think if you're really into the new stuff, you're gonna flip for what they did. But that experience, I'm sure. Did you do Rise of the Resistance?
Oh yeah. We did it. Yeah.
So
just like hated getting up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I know. We did the same.
Yeah.
But we were also there opening day of the new Mickey and Minnie Runaway. Is it called Runaway Rails or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
We were one of the first 100 people to ride.
Nice.
Because how you get there early, so that you open up into the park. Because we're all there for Rise of the Resistance, trying to get this stuff, and you get it. It's like, okay, well, you got a thing 1 o'clock, whatever. What the hell are we gonna do now? It's 7 a.m. The park just opened or whatever. So new ride. We just walked in and got online. Within
Mm-hmm.
20 minutes, maybe less than
Mm-hmm.
20 minutes, we rode the ride. And it
Yeah.
was a huge, I was like, and it's like right when you walk in.
Yep.
So
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
that was fantastic.
Yeah, that was a great ride. We, like I said, went a couple months ago. It was the first time we ever got on that ride, and that was great. We did it a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great ride.
That might be my favorite ride in Hollywood studios now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, listen, I'm not a Tower
Well,
of the Terror guy. My wife likes that kind of stuff. I'm not
Um,
into the coasters type of thing. So
right. Well, yeah, okay. If you're talking rides, yes, because my other
yeah.
favorite thing in Hollywood Studios is the Muppet Vision.
Oh, Muppet Vision. Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
I'll always. I don't. It's one of those things you never want them to change, even though technology
Yeah.
has gotten better and
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff. It's just such a fun
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah, it's funny. Like we went 4 or 5 years ago, and they had re-put out, I guess, Captain EO.
Yeah.
Right. And it was crazy because growing up, it was all Michael Jackson when I was a kid, right, in the 80s.
Yeah.
And then it was just like you forget. You're like, Michael Jackson, whatever. And then we saw Captain EO, and we were like, oh shit, it's Michael Jackson. Now we remember why he was Michael Jackson. It's just like, wow.
Yeah, no,
I remember. It was a lot of fun.
I remember seeing Captain EO as a kid, and I saw it with my wife a few years back. And I don't know if she said she never saw it or she didn't remember it, whatever. But it was a fun, experience again to see it. It was just a nice piece. And you're right. I mean, he was the 80s,
Yeah.
And it was a nice nostalgic moment.
Yeah. If you grew up during that time period, I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like if I could just go back for a few days, there was a lot of great. There was some bad. There was definitely some bad. Everybody has some bad. I was in New York City, 42nd Street. The Deuce. There was some bad, but but there was a lot of great though. There was a lot of great, a lot of fun. We have fantastic music.
Yeah, good music. Could have invested in some companies early.
It's like I tell everyone. It's like what is that? If I could go back and whisper anything in my ear, to my 18-year-old self, it's like, one, bet on Buster Douglas.
Yeah.
I mean, put everything on Buster Douglas. And then in I think 2008, I would have said put everything into Amazon.
Yeah.
Because it was like $26 at the time. I think it went as low as $23. Dump it all on Amazon. Yeah. Those are the two things I told myself.
That's funny.
No, yeah.
I say similar stuff if I had to go back. You whisper whatever year you're in, Apple, Microsoft, Google.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. When it's 10 cents each, man, just as much as you can get.
That was insane. That was insane. I remember hearing about that, years ago, and I'm like, what the hell is this? I'm not going to do anything with this.
Yeah.
And then, all these years later, you're like kicking yourself. And like, I remember when someone told me about that and how cheap it was. And, you didn't believe people.
Yeah, I mean, listen, there was a point you can buy them. I think they were $1 each or 75 cents or 50 cents each. Now they're like, what, $60,000 a coin now?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. If you're into crypto, it was one of those things, man.
Well, actually, speaking of that, guys, I'm actually going to have a show probably in December. I'm looking December, January. We're going to be talking about crypto and making money digitally, and
NFTs.
Yeah, NFTs, all that stuff. I got a couple of people. I'm just trying to get their schedules together that really know about this stuff. And this is a direction I think a lot of people should be looking into for certain things. It's that, someone approached me about it earlier this week about NFTs and creating them. So I'm
moving in that direction myself. So we'll see what happens. It's one of those things where it's interesting. I'll be honest with you. I'll be like, look, I'm getting into it because I have artists to feed. And again, it's whatever money I make I'm gonna be forking it over to them, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have a project and I want to get it to the end. I haven't done an actual count, but I know I'm at least 12 to 1300 pages into this story, right?
Yeah. Wow.
And I mean, I probably have another 1400 pages to go to finish it,
Wow.
you know, and I have every intention on finishing it, you know, literally on the subway, riding to come to this show. I'm writing the final story of the Oswald Chronicles. I'm working on the last story. So
Awesome.
that's gonna happen. It's gonna happen soon, you know. But just that whole thing is probably, I don't know, another 800 pages. That whole thing is just,
You know,
you know.
I can't ever think like that. You know, my first book I put out in the '90s was called Plunger Pup. It was about a dog who fought crime with a magic plunger. And I did 3 issues, and I started this team book, and then life happened, and you know, I didn't self-publish again for a few years, and then I was in and out of indie comics, so like doing stuff for people and whatnot. I have a plan of eventually getting back to Plunger Pup. And the first book, I don't want to say first book, but the first, when I originally created it, was a 20-issue story. I've knocked it down to like 7 issues because I've been able to, tell my stories better. But I think I can even shrink it more and maybe just say, I'm going to give myself 150 pages and that's it. And I only have 2 stories for it. So when this story ends, I have the next chapter of the story. So I'm looking at maybe 300 pages total between it, but I cannot think 1,200 pages here, another 1,200, 800 here. I'm like, my mind just, and maybe that's because I'm an artist and I'm like, my arm will be dead. If I drew 1,200 pages of a story, my arm, I remember I had to do 8 pages in 3 days. And like, I couldn't draw for a week because I was up literally. I was luckily it was like a vacation time. I was off from work, but I had to meet this deadline. And this guy, listen, the money was great or whatever. They paid me all this extra for a rush job, but like I literally would wake up, lay out, pencil, send. Is this okay? Back and forth, and then it was the inking, and then after the inking, it was the toning digitally. And and then luckily I didn't have to letter because I don't think I could type. My arm was just like, I couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
But
I mean, Tall Tales, right? The first arc is 20 issues,
okay.
and then the second arc is going to be 8 issues, and then originally I had planned for the third arc to be 30 issues.
Wow.
Right. Well, I've cut that sucker down to 12. So I'm like, because like I said, there's a story there to be told, and I want to tell it. And the thing is as an indie artist, as any writer creator, I don't like to limit myself. I will just, I'm telling the story that I'm going to tell, and I'm going to tell it however I want to tell it. If I was writing, it's no different than writing a prose book than like you see something like Game of Thrones where it's 1,000 pages long.
Yeah.
Right. Do we have diarrhea of the mouth? Sure. But you know what? Sometimes that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
That's the story I want to tell. That's why I don't work for Marvel. Because they're not going to let me tell that story the way I want to tell it. It says Peter Parker will go through everything. Watch. They're like, 6 issues later, but yo, you got to cut this short. So, I mean, that's always my thing.
Yeah. Anyway, man, I'm having a great time talking with you, but I think I need to wrap up. We'll have to bring you back on next time, whether it be even if you don't have a Kickstarter going on, just come on, maybe get a few other people. We'll talk indie comics, man, because number one, you're just a fountain of knowledge on this stuff. And
maybe, I don't know.
No, listen, the advice you give is always good. I've heard your advice. You know what you're doing. Listen, you may have started at 17 not knowing what you're doing, but it's 30 years later, man, and you learn a bit and you give great advice. So
I try.
I mean, and let's be honest, how many people can say that they've been working on stuff for that long in an independent world? A lot of people just give up after one book. Oh, I made a book. I went to a couple of cons. They didn't sell. Right. I got something for my fireplace. It's something like that. Yeah. It's you have that determination, you have that drive, and that's fantastic. And that's why you've been doing it for so long, and you can continue doing it for so long.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, you got to be a little hard headed,
Mhm.
you know, and maybe a little insane and a little stupid all at the same time. So I mean, it requires all of those things in a good mixture, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But listen, I mean, here's the thing. I tell everybody, I was like, look, if you're a writer and you want to work with an artist and you want to do a comic book, always remember, you know, you're self-financing. You don't have to kill yourself if you don't want to, or you shouldn't kill yourself over it.
Yeah.
You can find an art, get a good artist, a page rate, right? And some artists, they have a lot of work to do. They'll tell you, this is, look, I can't commit. But sometimes you can say, hey, listen, can you do 1 page a week?
Mhm.
And I found a lot of artists, they'll be like, yeah, I can do that. Because they want the steady income, right?
Mhm.
Even if it's, the page rate could be whatever it is, right? 52 weeks later, you got 52 pages.
Yeah.
Within 2 years, you have a graphic novel,
Yeah.
or you have 4 issues that you could break it up into 4 issues. So it's not out of reach. You understand? It just
Mhm.
depends on what you want to do. With Jade Gonzalez, she sends me 2 pages a week.
Mhm.
Every week, I get 2 pages. You
That's
know,
great.
in a year, I got 100 and something pages. So okay, there it is. With Aurelio, I'm working something similar with him as well. You know.
That's fantastic. I never thought about it. I tend to do the art, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that way. I've never
Right.
actually hired artists. I've hired artists, but to kind of help me like with coloring or inking or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I've always
Right.
handled the pencils and stuff. But that is a smart way of thinking about it. I mean, listen, you guys don't have to rush stuff. And I always tell people you don't want to rush it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're gonna draw it, I've always said this to everybody. Don't worry about your skill level with an art as an artist. All
Mm-hmm.
right, as long as your story is good, you're going to have readers. The one of the things I love about comics being an artist is I'm only limited to my imagination and my skill with that pencil. If I
Right.
can think it and can draw it, I can go or take people anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
you know. um and that's the thing, as a writer, you look for people who can do that, who have
Right.
that skill. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you have someone who could be steady and a couple of pages a week, but I mean, be realistic though. When you're working in mainstream, you
Mm-hmm.
know, if you're the penciler, how many days do you have to get books done? I
Right.
mean, it's you're kind of, you know, I've talked to artists where it's under, if they're doing a 22-page book, they sometimes have a
Mm-hmm.
little less than a month to draw. Sometimes they have a month. Sometimes they have 2 months. Everything depends on release schedule, how far advanced people are working. And this is, but things need to come and stay on track to get out on time. So,
Mm-hmm.
we got a question here, so we're not going to wrap up right away. But it says,
All right.
"What's the appeal for you to do comics? Why not just publish prose on Kindle, Wattpad, etc.?"
Right. All right. Now, the one thing you'll encounter with any writer, okay? We always want a little bit more, okay? Any writer always wants to see their work realized.
Mhm.
You understand? Because look, I consider writing the most abstract form of artwork you can do, okay? Because you can take 100 artists from 100 different countries, 100 different languages, and you tell them all, draw me a rose or illustrate me a rose or whatever, you will end up with 100 different roses, right? Done in, any one of thousands, 100 different ways. Paintings, oil paintings, whatever, right? You ask 100 different writers to give you one paragraph on a rose in 100 different languages. You'll never be able to, unless you read those different languages, it's all different, right? It's so abstract, you'll never know, right? So as a writer, I want that artist to realize my world that's in my brain, right,
Yeah.
and bring it into reality. And that's what it is. That's how I feel. I want to see the insanity that's in my head on a page. And
Yeah.
look, if I could have done movies, I would have done. I went to film school, and let me tell you, if you think comics is tough, woof, go shoot a 10-minute film with a crew. Oh my god! I mean, it's fun. It's fun, and I think I could have done it, but man, that is work. Like
I
that
know.
is like like a 10-minute film with the crew and all that stuff and editing, and I mean, you're talking about a month, not to mention money. I didn't even think about that part.
I know. I've actually worked as a production assistant in my youth on like commercials and things, and just I've been part of my friends' students' films as crew or as the editors. It's been it's a rough ride, because I actually thought about doing film at one point, and because I'm an animator, I'm basically a filmmaker when I animate.
Right.
So I'm like, maybe I'll try to see and go work with humans, so I don't have to draw all the time. It's a lot harder to deal with people and work on a crew than say, you know what, it's just me and my pencil. And if I need to have someone record a voice for me or get music or whatever, I'll figure that out later. And if I don't want to pay people, I'll do my voices even if it's their crap. It's just
that's like I said, it's tough, man. Film is tough because I worked with my friends. I think I had one professional actor, but I would work with my friends and they're not actors. They just had good looks, right? Yeah. So I said, okay. So I had one friend, I had all these really nice monologues I'd written out. No, not happening. So we sat there and I would write the lines for him and we would go over it and I would record it and, just do it like that. And I went from this huge monologue to like just a few words. And it was like, sometimes that's all it needs to be. And it worked. So, but it different. It's definitely different. A lot of fun though. But but like I said, it's a thing about trying to see your world realized. And that's why I think a lot of writers like. I think it doesn't matter the writer. We would all love to see a pinup. We would love to see a fantastic cover. I think I've heard a few writers talk about the covers, and they would be like, that's one of the things they always look forward to. It's a shame that a lot of book covers today don't embrace, the fully painted, fully realized covers.
Well, if you look at my background, how do I go? I got Frazetta right back there. I got a Frazetta on my closet door over there as well.
Death Dealer, nice.
Yeah.
So, that's not Death Dealer. That's Fire and Ice.
Yeah, Fire and Ice. I do have a Death Dealer rolled up. I actually got a chance to go to the Frazetta Museum, and I bought 4 prints, but I don't have enough room on my wall for all 4. So I had to choose the ones I really like the best. And there's something really cool about that piece right there that a lot of people don't realize. You got to really stare at it. And it's that the polar bears actually don't have a harness on them, but no one notices it unless you sit inside and be like, oh crap, you have to, it takes you a moment to realize. And I just love that illusion that he created, that it looks like they're pulling a sled, but there's no harness on them. And like, I know I'll never be Frazetta level. I'm okay with that. I've accepted that. All right. And I do enjoy painting when I have the time to paint. But, when I was a kid and I was looking at books, the covers were what pulled me in. And anytime I saw a Frazetta cover, you knew it was like, I sometimes you didn't even want it at the store. You just wanted to buy the book to stare at the cover, and that's what it was. And I'd go into stores like B. Dalton's, if you remember them, and Walden Books and stuff. And you'd walk around and you'd see it, and you're just like, oh my God, this is what I aspire to. And the just greatest fantasy. Like if they had cell phones back then, I would have snapped pictures of the covers and taken them home. Instead of spending $6 or $7 on a book that I never read just because I wanted to trace that cover 1,000 times.
No, definitely. Yeah. No, Frazetta is incredible. I listened to Mike Mignola give an interview, and he was talking about how Frank Frazetta is a huge influence on his work, compositionally.
Yes.
Right.
I can see that.
And that's the thing. It's like, because you think Mike Mignola, Frank Frazetta, like, what are you talking about? And then he starts talking about composition. You're like, oh yeah, okay. Like you start thinking about it, you're like, yeah, And then he said that's the thing that he really studied was that composition. So Frank Frazetta, man. You
Yeah,
know,
he's everywhere. I
incredible.
mean, I don't think there's any artist that does comics and that doesn't either have a Frazetta hanging on their wall somewhere, or have a
Hmm.
book that they can look through, or they hear the name Frazetta and don't know who you're talking about.
Right.
I mean, he influenced so many of us, and
Mm.
and you want to talk high fantasy stuff and the stuff
Yeah.
that you do, and the stuff,
Hmm.
and I think because I was a D&D guy too. um I think it was Frazetta that brought us into the world.
Hmm.
I think without his work, would we really be into that? So we got a couple more. Another question from Christian. What are your three favorite books, any genre? He says novels.
Let's see. Chronicles of Amber by Rogers Lasney. Um, the Cthulhu mythos. Well, I shouldn't say Cthulhu. H.P. Lovecraft. I really enjoy H.P. Lovecraft. And Frank Herbert's Doom.
Okay.
So,
Speaking of that, I haven't seen the new movie. Have you yet?
yes, of course.
Did
You
you
know,
like it
crackhead.
or?
It's funny. I went through this whole thing because I like the 1984 version, right?
Mhm.
Which people, they say, oh, it's goofy, it's campy, and whatever, and it's very over the top, right?
Yeah.
This movie is the exact opposite. It's very understated. It's very beautiful. It's wonderfully shot, but it's very understated in comparison. Like in I don't know if you've seen the original movie,
I've
but
seen the original. I haven't
yeah,
watched the new one yet. I haven't had a chance.
those performances are like way over the top,
Okay.
and whereas this one, it's very understated, and I think the director did that so he could remove himself from that comparison of the other movie,
Mhm.
and I think it kind of hurt because there's some scenes like there's when you see the movie, this won't destroy anything for you, but there's actually no, I won't mention because
Okay.
it might skew the
Okay.
direction. But the movie is good. I really enjoyed it, and I'm
Okay.
looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, because I've heard a lot of mixed reviews.
Hmm.
Another question: have you ever read *100 Years of Solitude*?
I can't say I have. No,
Yeah,
who's the
I'm
author?
not familiar with that one either. I've heard of the title, but
Yeah, I can't say I have. You know, and I mean, and when I was younger, I read extensively, like it because I was reading comics, but I was reading at least 1 to 2 novels a week on top of that.
okay.
Probably from the age of like 13 or 12 to about like 30. You know, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Okay, I gotta look that up. I'll look
Yeah,
that up. Hmm.
Nobel Prize
So
winner.
okay, cool.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I'm not familiar with I've heard of that title, but I've never read it
Mhm.
or seen it. I wasn't a big reader as a kid. The comics is what if it didn't have pictures, it was a little hard.
No, I was all over the place because I read novels and the comics, and
Yeah.
so I
Well,
was like,
I had reading issues and stuff as a kid. I didn't. It's funny. I'll tell you this story. I know we got to wrap up, but we keep we keep
yeah,
going
I
on
know
here.
we can keep
It's
going.
fine. But when I was a kid, I had a lot of reading issues, and I would read in school, right?
Hmm.
And I'd look at the page, and after a few moments, the words would like blur up on me,
No.
and I was like, "What the hell is going on? Like, am I dyslexic? Do I have? Am I like allergic to reading? What is happening?" And
Hmm.
nobody can figure out what the problem was. Then, when I was 18 years old, I had my first kidney transplant,
Mm.
and I was on all these meds, and I had I went to the eye doctor for a regular checkup, and they're like, "Do you know you're photosensitive?" And I said, "No, I do not." She goes, "Does light bother you?" I said, "Yeah." So I had to start wearing certain types of glasses to help with my photosensitivity, and put eye drops in my eyes kind of daily. It turns out that the fluorescent lights,
Hmm.
the way that specifically affects my eyes,
Mm.
would blur the words up, and it will still do that to me. But I know, put my drops in, like I used to get headaches, the whole thing. So
Right.
I didn't really get into reading until later in life, into my 20s and stuff.
Mm.
And when I was reading, I still had issues because it took me a while to get up to a reading level that I felt I was at. I always felt a little below because I had that issue
Right.
reading. So I
Right.
never really started reading novels or anything till I was probably in my college years, or ending of my college years, read what I had for school. And then it was become read for fun, you know?
Right.
And
Hmm.
now I tend to only read, like, if I don't read mythology, I have to read like biographies and how-tos because I spend so much time in a fantasy world. I have trouble
Right.
reading fantasy. So,
No, I read. I try to consume as much as I can, whether it be through TV or reading or whatever, because it's just grist for the mill. You know, it just
makes you a
feeds
better
into your
writer.
imagination.
Yeah.
It just feeds into your imagination, and then just comes out. And people ask you, say, "Oh, so how do you come up with this stuff?" I'm like, I consume. That's what it is.
And that's what makes for the ones that stay popular, the ones that do the best work. You know, a lot of the you look at someone who does comic strips. Comic strips are really basically social commentary on the world in a way, whether it's a high and lowest family strip and they're talking about husband and wife issues, or it's their comment on whatever societal norms of that, but done in their own way, and you could say the same thing with like Hagar the Horrible, which is it's a family story, but they're in the Viking era, so you do a little different take, but it really is social commentary, all those things. And if you don't pay attention to what's happening in society, your strip becomes stale and your writing becomes stale. And so, the more you take in, the more you read, watch. I tell that to people all the time. That's the way to write a story. They say, write what you know. If you're not learning, you know nothing, right?
Yeah, this is true. So, what's the old saying? Poor is the writer who doesn't read.
Yes,
right?
I've heard that.
That's what it is. It's just like you just got to consume and take it all in, and take it as much as you can, and try to read the best stuff you can. Yeah. Try to stay away from the trash.
Sometimes you don't know that though until you get home and read the book. But,
this is true. This is true. Yeah. I mean, for the longest time, I would just stick to the what is that? The Hugos and the Nebulas, right? I would find out who got nominated, and I would just read a lot of those stuff, a lot of that stuff. I haven't done that in years. Now I just find the occasional book and I just read it.
Yeah.
All of my favorite authors have passed on, unfortunately. But there's always somebody else.
That's what happens. You'll find new ones. But let's wrap up because I know you and I both have day jobs.
Yes.
And so I want to thank you for coming on tonight. Thank you for everything you shared. You do give great advice, even if you don't think you do. And I honestly wish you the best of luck with this Kickstarter. I believe you already have funded, right? But you're now working on stretch goals.
Yes, we're working on stretch goals.
And you're currently you had a goal of 1,500. You're at 2,392, which is great. 7 days to go.
Yep.
All right. I put the link to it in the comments, you guys. So I recommend you guys check it out. There is a link depending where you're watching this on, Facebook, YouTube. There is a link in the description of this of the show for the Kickstarter. So please make sure you check that out.
Yep.
And thanks for coming on, man. I really, really enjoyed chatting with you. So
thank you,
welcome back anytime.
All right, cool. Sounds good. I mean, one day you got to come on my Sunday show.
I will. You know what? We didn't bring that up. I was just about to say, can you just give a little plug for it?
Okay, yeah. So I have a YouTube channel, it's Indie Comics Explained. So sometimes I'll do one-on-one interviews where I'm on the other side, and I'm doing the interview, and I'll do that with various independent creators. It's something I enjoy doing. And listen, if you ever want to come on the show, just reach out to me, DM me, whatever. It doesn't matter who you are, how big you are, or how small. I don't care. You understand? It's about indie comics. It's about loving indie comics. And it's about, just talking about comics. And I don't care where you're at in the strata. You understand? Let's just talk.
And you do this every Sunday, right?
Well, the one-on-ones,
Oh, okay.
It's probably looking like every Thursday night I'm doing those. And then Sunday is the panel show where we get on there and we talk about comics, and I'm usually asking them all sorts of questions, and we're just usually, it'll range anywhere from, what you're looking forward to and to process to business of indie comics. So it just depends. So we go all over the place, and there'll be myself and a co-host, and I have a co-host. We'll just sit there, we'll just rattle off all these insane questions, and we'll do that every Sunday. A couple hours. It's fun.
And the name of the show again is what?
Indie Comics Explained, or you could just find them at JD Calderon. So
all right,
either one.
So Indie Comics Explains the name of the show. I have watched your show when I have free time. I've watched it in replay on Facebook and stuff. So I do enjoy the show. I don't get I don't watch it live as much as I'd like, but it is a fun show. So you guys definitely check it out. So we got one more comment here. He says, I have a friend, Bill, who just finished a novel, comic got published.
Nice.
Have him reach out to JD.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
exactly. Or Michael.
Yeah, me too. I'm happy to talk to people. I'm happy to talk to everyone. But yeah, come to go on the show. You're welcome to do the circuit and go around to all of us. We all seem to be on everybody's show every now and then.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just saw you were on Catch the Craze, right?
Yes, I've done those. I've done a number of those.
I've done a few of myself.
Yeah, Nita and Meredith, the greatest ladies, two of the greatest ladies in comics today. I love them. They're both awesome. Yeah.
All right. So, yes, let's finally wrap this up.
Yes, let's wrap this up.
I really did enjoy myself. You guys,
thank you.
Either in the comments or in the description, click on the Kickstarter. Please pledge to the Kickstarter. Back it. It's a great thing. I know I'll be doing that.
Thank you.
Tomorrow. I just thinking the level I want to go with. There's a few here that I'm like, oh, this is really what I want, and
right.
Really comes down to I got to check my bank account before I pledge.
Yeah. I know that feeling. Yeah.
So, I'm gonna drop you backstage. You mind hanging out just for a moment?
No, of course. Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. I had a lot of fun. I always enjoy I just enjoy chatting with other creative people and people, who create very entertaining comics. JD's been doing this for such a long time. If you're a fantasy fan, you need to be looking at the stuff he's putting out. Everything is just fantastic. So again, it is the Oswald Chronicles trade issues 1 through 3 up on Kickstarter right now. I told you guys where to find it in the links in the comments or in the what's it called? They're in the description. Okay, so we got one more question. What genre and who is the publisher? Well, JD is the publisher. It is, and everything he does is fantasy. I would say high fantasy is a lot of his stuff. And definitely just check it out. You can find him on Facebook. You can find him on his website. If we go to his website just one more time, I'll show it real quick since you're asking about it. Let me add to the screen here. So it's Dreamweaver Press right here is the publisher. That's his company, and he's got the Oswald Chronicles, and you can click over here, the Small Tall Tales icon here, and see his other book that he created, and the Fantasy Epic Tall Tales. Great book, by the way, guys. I've read it. I have issues in my boxes below me here. Definitely something you guys should be checking out. All right. So again, thanks for tuning in. Next week, I'm bringing back, I blanked on the name for a second, Fantasy Poems. And they are Christian DiMatteo and James Lyons. We're going to be checking out, they announced their Kickstarter over a month ago. I think it's almost been 2 months now. And their Kickstarter is ending, I think, in a week or two. And we're going to see where they're at. We're going to be talking about their stuff. Did I say fantasy? It's Fugitive Poems. They're two great guys. James as the artist, Christian as the writer. They are hysterical every time they're on. You guys need to check it out. I got some great shows coming up in the next few weeks too. So thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys next week. All right. Have a great rest of your week, guys.